Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2. So Lily has the pearl, and she's going to make day 2 officially open. Okay, so we hope that you've had an amazing day. Yes, over the past few days, we started on the 6th with the pre-conference workshop, the welcome reception, and then yesterday we had the opening ceremony. And I'm like really seeing people enjoying this conference warms my heart. So I hope that you've had an amazing day, and looking forward to the rest of the day and tomorrow, which will be the last day of the conference. With me, we have Dr. Lily O'Hara, the chair of the organizing committee. And we need to give her a round of applause for her, for the amazing organization with the rest of the team. Do you want to say something?
Fantastic. Yes, thank you all. We're so delighted to see you all here again on day 2. And what we're going to do today for a recap is to ask you to think about just one of the many pearls of wisdom that you acquired yesterday. And we have students, volunteers with microphones, and we're going to hear from you, really what was something, there's undoubtedly many pearls, we hope, that you took away from yesterday. Not real pearls, but pearls of wisdom. So we would like to hear from you, and in the spirit of collaborative practice, of course, we are working together to create the recap of yesterday. So who would like to begin with a brief pearl that they acquired yesterday? Just put your hand up and the students will come to you with a microphone. And don't be shy.
Yeah, and maybe you can just introduce yourself, the country you came from. Okay, we have someone there.
Hard to see.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Sola Togan Butler. I am from New York in USA, and a pearl of wisdom that I learned is the idea of a third culture, and that really resonated with me because I'm Nigerian American, and trying to balance what it's like to be both Nigerian and American, and struggling to name that. So that meant a lot to me when I was told there's a third culture, and that's when you create your own culture, because you're a mix of different cultures. So that really resonated with me, for the pearls of wisdom.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, and thank you for being brave and kicking us off. All right, next. There needs to be a flood of hands going up. Just one thing that you took away or that struck you as valuable. Yes, it's on.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Azad Gudus, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I think one of the things that kept in my mind is how we will build the bridge between the academic point of view and the practice, where we will meet in the matching point that will be collaboratively happening and will be impactful. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, very important. Collaborative culture it crosses that bridge. Hopefully there's no bridge in future. It's just seamless.
الدكتور ناصر محمد العتيبي من جامعة الكويت Occupational Therapy Department, Faculty of Allied Health Sciences, Kuwait University. Actually, what I have learned throughout my experience as a faculty member at Kuwait University, learning with, about, and from each other is the key to success. This is the most important take-home messages as we all learn from each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's the definition of IPE, learning with, from, and about each other.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have.
So yes, lady, there's one behind you who's got the mic already. Oh, okay, you go first.
My name is Ruwaida Hadi, clinical pharmacist from PHCC, Qatar. I learned from yesterday something very important, and we are missed this one. It's communication and feedback between the multidisciplinary team as interprofessional education between the healthcare providers. We know this, but many times we forget to advance our communication skills and to get feedback, either negative or positive.
I really like that.
Excellent.
So it's not just communication, but also the feedback on our communication is really crucial to improve it.
Yes, that constant reflective cycle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful pearl. Okay, the lady at the back there, yes.
So, hi, my name is Rima Al-Janahi. I'm a student here in Qatar. And one of the pearls of wisdom that I saw from yesterday, and even just in the first half hour in the morning, is that in this community, the IB and ATBH, you're never really alone. And wherever you have questions or you need assistance, there's always someone that you can go and contact, and they're always very kind and open. Because I remember yesterday there was a lot of questions and things that I've been struggling with for years. How am I going to do this? How do I implement that? And just purely off of the people that I met yesterday, I realized I have the contacts and the resources, and they were so kind and shared their contact information and gave lots of encouragement and support.
Fantastic. Thank you. Fantastic to hear from students.
Together we achieve more.
Together, yes. Yes.
Good
Okay.
morning, everyone.
Marianne.
Marianne.
My name is Marian, and I work here in Qatar University. I'm originally from Greece, and I was very impressed by a presenter yesterday who was talking about how different languages, how different body language, and how different cultures need to be interpreted by health professionals in order to be translated in a way to be able for them to give the best health support to their patients. And being a foreigner, I understand that. I'm Greek, I'm making a lot of movements. And someone understanding what I need through these movements, I think could provide me with more support. Thank you.
Excellent. Natasha.
Good morning, everyone. We welcome you all to Qatar and Qatar University. My name is Natasha, and I'm one of the organizing committee members for the ATBH conference. It was a wonderful experience for me to be here yesterday, to see this massive, knowledgeable people, and I felt very poor. I went home and I said, I feel very poor, and my family members asked me, why? I said, so much knowledge around me, and I feel like I have a lot of things to know. So I have learned something yesterday, that you are not what you know. You are what you are willing to know in the future, because what you learn is going to make you better and better. And thank you so much for this wonderful conference, which enables us to learn so much from this vast, knowledgeable people around us. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay.
Maybe one more.
There's
Hi,
here. This lady here.
I'm Jenny Harris from
Last
University
one.
of Global Health Equity in Rwanda, and something that really struck me was learning about the idea of unconscious bias and how much it can affect what we do and how we collaborate with people. So they were telling us about being very intentional on recognizing those bias and stereotypes that we meet in our different professions, and also reflecting on it and making sure that we learn from it and we avoid it in our ways of interacting with others and encouraging interprofessional collaboration. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So that wraps up our recap session. Thank you all for participating so willingly once we got you started, once you warmed up a little bit. We're now going to hand over to Taysir, who's going to take us through a guided meditation to just calm us all down and get ready for a fantastic day ahead.
And maybe Taysir, you can also talk about the
garden.
Pearls of Well-being that we have.
Taysir is responsible for the secret garden in which the Pearls of Well-being activities are there, and I encourage you all to do that. So over to you, Taysir.
Thank you so much. Beautiful morning, everybody. I've been told that I'm not supposed to make you relax and sleep, and you need some energy. So I'll be able to do that, but I want the lights a little bit dim, so then they can enjoy. Dimmer, dimmer, dimmer. Absolutely. What a beautiful, I wish that we could just all go to the garden outside at the break. My name is Taysir Al-Jaili. I am a health counseling psychologist functioning as a senior well-being specialist at QU. What we'll be doing now is like 4 minutes of guided meditation to go with the whole theme of engagement But this time, the engagement is going to be within you and with yourself. So, first of all, I would like to invite you to kind of sit relaxed, not too tensed, not too relaxed. Upright, in a way that you feel comfortable, supported by the ground. Your back, neck, and head are straight, like dignified and tall. Your hands are in a comfortable position. You could do that, just comfortable position. We want the lights a little bit dimmer because we're going to take them in a guided meditation. All right. All right, I want you to notice how your feet are supported by the ground. Absolutely. Now, I want you to allow your eyes to gently close. You could, if you feel comfortable, you can close them completely, but if you don't, you can just gaze in the seat in front of you. Now I want you to take a deep breath, deep, slow breath. One more time, a slow, deep breath to bring yourself to the present moment and to begin the process of feeling more peaceful and centered. Dim, dim lights. Now I want to take a moment or two to invite your consciousness to the last time you felt absorbed, immersed in an activity, when you felt content, experienced flow and enjoyment in a task. That can be gardening, that can be art, that can be praying, that can be working out or running, that can be like brainstorming with a colleague. Time disappears as you're fully concentrated in what you're doing at this moment. You're fully deliberate in what you're doing. You're moving, how you're moving, and you feel utmost enjoyment. The activity is rewarding in itself. Maybe your sense perceptions are heightened, colors are sharper and brighter, and each sound seems to ripple right through you. Your mind is sharp and focused, and your body is energized. A sense of vibrant aliveness, connectedness, and peace infuses your being. You feel in tune, moving precisely with self-control, self-confidence, dignity. And poise, you don't fully understand, but at this time, it's so pleasurable. You're so involved that nothing seems to matter as you're enjoying it fully absorbed. You're in the zone. You're in the flow. When you finish, you can notice the feeling of your body and breath in this place. Rest quietly for several moments, noticing how you're feeling, your thoughts, your emotions, and you're like compared to how before you started. How did that? Just notice, no judging. Now gently stretch your hands and arms, feet and legs, and slowly, slowly you can come to the room. If your eyes are closed, you can open them slowly. Thank you for practicing the guided heart-centered meditation to promote a sense of engagement, flow, and absorption. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Good morning. Better. Great. This is a special treat. I'm relaxed, and I'm wiser than yesterday, so good. I absorbed a lot of that wisdom this morning. So I'm Mohammed Ahmedna. I'm the Vice President for Strategy in Academic Quality at the QU Health Cluster, which is basically a cluster of 5 colleges: College of Medicine, Pharmacy, Health Science, Nursing, and Dentistry. And the cluster is designed just in the spirit of this conference to promote the collaboration among health disciplines in terms of IPE, in terms of interdisciplinary research, and so on. And the idea is simple. We know that competitiveness lies in the space between discipline, whether it's research or clinical. So having that 3D look from all these specialists allow us to be more effective in addressing the issue at hand, whether they are research or clinical practice. So kudos for you, all of you, to be here this morning. And I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to this, our All Together Better Health Conference. And it's 11th edition. And you all know it's special because the first in the MENA region. And for us, it's doubly special because it's held in Doha, hosted by Qatar University. So that's a treat for us. By all measures, the first day was a smashing success, I can tell you that. Thank you to the diligent work of our organizing committee led by Dr. Allah. And then for this, I would like to ask all the members of that committee to either stand if you are sitting or raise your hand if you are standing. Any members of the committee? Thank you very much. Thank you for a great job. Outstanding. Thank you. You see how popular you are now? Great. But the success of the first day is not only due to all of that, it's also due to you, your presence, and your contribution. So give yourself a round of applause for all the work you did. If you try to unpack what happened in one day, you are in the moment one time, but you don't realize how much has happened in one day. So I just took the liberty of just having a 120-mile across to show some of our stuff of yesterday. So we started with a dazzling show that was facilitated by two of our outstanding students. I think it was Mohammed Al-Hur and Arwa Al-Hani. And they did an outstanding job. Don't you all agree? They did a professional grade performance yesterday, so we thank them for that. We also had a special treat with a lot of dignitaries who came here, including Her Highness Sheikh Hamouza, and then also Her Excellency Dr. Hanan Al-Kuwari, the Minister of Health, as well as our own President, Dr. Omar Al-Ansari, and many VIPs from inside and outside the university. And what happened after that, we heard from Dr. Nyoni and then Dr. Allah about the occasion and about the journey for the international chapter, interprofessional education chapter for Arabian country that is headquartered here in Doha, Qatar, and congratulations for that success over the time. By the way, let me ask you, did you do the homework Dr. Nyoni asked you yesterday? He might have a quiz or something, I don't know, he's preparing something, I can say. We also witnessed the announcement and the delivery of the Declaration of Doha and then heard about the article. Dr. Gilbert, who's here, gave us a nice keynote address that covered the intricacies of policy making and its importance and central role in ensuring that IPE is embedded in the interprofessional education and collaborative practice in a sustainable manner and an intentional manner. And the concurrent session you all attended, I attended some of them. I find them very informative and allowed sharing of experience and best practices. In the afternoon, we had a historical run by Dr. Hassan Al-Thani from HMC through the last 100 years of healthcare in Qatar, from folk medicine in the 90s all the way to robotic surgery and precision medicine of today in Qatar, where the population has grown tenfold and to almost 3 million. And then again, the concurrent session provided more in-depth for our attendees. Beside all of that, you know, we had a rich menu of posters and exhibit, and then the Serenity Garden right there to visit. So it was all packed day. You can see on the moment you can't realize it. I hope you all enjoyed it and got something out of it. What you do matters, and matter a great deal for many reasons, for our patients, for our education system, for our return on investment. So that was a deviation from what I'm supposed to do here, which is to introduce the speaker of the day. So I would say that if yesterday was a very successful day, today will not be an exception, because we have a great program here for you. To start the day, it's my pleasure to introduce the speaker of the first plenary session or joint session about deconstruction altogether, better health, what's in the word. And I personally look forward to hearing what that deconstruction insight will bring us. And I hear that you are for a special treat for our speaker today. She's well known in her field. And our speaker for the day is none other than the esteemed Professor Jill Thistlethwaite, adjunct professor and faculty of health at University of Technology in Sydney, and clinical chair in the hospital non-specialist program at the Health Education and Training Institute at the NSW Health Australia. Her background is varied and extended. After graduating from medical school in London, England, Professor Thistlethwaite became a general practitioner or family doctor for about 10 years in the north of England, and he was also involved in the general practice education. In 1996, she moved into academia at the University of Leeds and have subsequently worked in health profession education in the UK and Australia. She has a master in medical education, master in medicine from the University of Dundee, and a PhD from the University of Maastricht. For over 25 years, she has been a champion of IPE and is a senior editor of the Journal of Interprofessional Care. She was also the editor of the in-chief of the clinical teacher from 2014 to 2020. Professor Thistlethwaite writings include 13 authored and edited books, 30 book chapters, and 120 peer-reviewed papers, many of which were on interprofessional education. In 2020, she was awarded the President Medal by the Association for the Study of Medical Education, ASME, and in 2022, she received the Pioneer Award by the National Center for Interprofessional Practice in Education. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Thistlethwaite. Thank you.
Is this on? Yes? It's on? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those very kind words, and good morning, everybody. I hope everyone's feeling nice and relaxed. I even managed to start feeling a little bit relaxed then, though obviously it's a great privilege to be standing up here, and I have got some nerves, so do bear with me. And I hope you enjoy what I'm going to say, some of which may be quite challenging. So I'll just state that, but I'm going to actually come back to that statement later. So the title of this presentation is around deconstruction, which is actually a word that was coined by a French philosopher in the 1960s and 70s, Jacques Derrida, who was a French Algerian. And he was very, very trendy in the 60s and 70s, particularly in America. Has fallen out of favor quite a lot. But he raised the question about what we mean. What do our words mean? How are they interpreted? Very much around the fact that our words can be taken out of context. If we don't know the context in which we're speaking, then we can get into all sorts of problems with misinformation and misinterpretation. We all know this when we work with patients, with learners, that sometimes we're just not on the same page. We just don't understand what we're saying. If we're speaking, we do have the opportunity to ask. If you don't understand, you can ask. When it comes to writing, and when we read, the writer often reinterprets the word of the author, but there is no time, no place, no space to be able to interrogate the author as to what those meanings are. And so we often get into confusion across our communication. So I think it's very important that as a global movement for interprofessional education, we consider the words we use. We consider that many people amongst us do not speak English as a first language. We make many assumptions that they understand what we're saying. We don't ask, we don't check, and we don't consider the context. So when I talk about a health system, I assume often that your health system is exactly the same as mine, but that's not the case. So it's really important to question, to ask. And I said earlier I have no conflicts of interest, but I come from the context of I'm female, I'm white, I'm English, I'm a medical doctor, I live in Australia, I'm a writer, and all of those things affect my perspective. Someone earlier mentioned about unconscious bias. So we all come with these attributes that may affect how we interpret the world around us. None of us are without prejudice or stereotyping. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about. And the reason why I put this kangaroo in the photograph, this is a kangaroo who's part of a mob that visits my garden every day. So I spent 2/3 of my life in England and 1/3 in Australia. But every time I see a kangaroo, I still go, wow, what an amazing animal. How does such an animal exist? Look at it bouncing around. Look at it jumping over fences. And I say to my Australian colleagues who've lived in Australia all their lives, look, it's a kangaroo. And they go, whatever. Because they're grown up with this strange animal. So remember, we all see things in a different way. And I think it's sad when you lose that mystery sometimes, but do just not assume what people are thinking. When we use the word interprofessional, don't assume that everybody is using it in the same way that you are. Check, always check. So first of all, I'm just going to give a very brief history of Altogether Better Health, which John did cover to some extent. But what no one has mentioned is it's our silver anniversary. But that's not exactly true because it's 26 years, but give or take a year. So it was 26 years ago when the first conference was held in London. But as John mentioned a little bit about this yesterday, it was designed in part to promote the Journal of Interprofessional Care, which is still going strong. And you can see there that it was a global conference. It took 7 years till we got Altogether Better Health 2. And I'm sure many of you can recognize a very attractive gentleman looking very young on this photograph. Also with a young Hugh Barr in that meeting. How we've all changed. Altogether Better Health 3 was my first conference that I attended, and it was a great privilege for me because I was asked to be co-chair. And it's got very fond memories because it was in London that a group of Australian and New Zealanders who travelled all that way actually met, and we decided to form the Australasian Interprofessional Practice and Education Network. So I'm not going to go through everything here. Just some highlights. In 2010 in Sydney, we had the Sydney Interprofessional Declaration, and then you can see some of the pictures. There's another person who's sitting in the second row who's in that picture in Oxford. And it was just the movement grew and grew, and now here we are in the 11th iteration. So that's a bit of history. Now, I was always very curious, why is the conference called Altogether Better Health? I can see from the point of view of all those words, and as health professionals, that's our business. But it didn't mention interprofessional. So, I thought the branding was a bit off. So I actually asked Hugh Barr about this, and he said the conference organisers, so the professional conference organisers, said no one will come if it's called interprofessional. You have to have health in the title. So it's actually the professional organisers who came up with this term. So one of our jobs when we talk about Altogether Better Health conferences is really to emphasize that this is about interprofessional education and collaborative practice. So now I'm going to think about the word all. All is about inclusivity. It's about not excluding people. It's about diversity. It's about leaving no one behind. And this applies to all professions, all patients, consumers, clients, or the word that we use for the people that we work with, and all communities. But I challenge you, and I ask you, who is actually excluded? So we can usually decide on who is included, but who is actually excluded in our communities, in our healthcare, in our learners? In your context, and on what grounds are they excluded? And it may well be, and this is also going back to deconstruction, that the binary of inclusion and exclusion, there's a lot of people in between who are half in and half out, and who don't feel part of the community all the time. So why is that? Why are we excluding people? And why are we excluding them from healthcare and education in some ways? And maybe it's partly because of language. So universal health coverage, universal health for all, and I was brought up and worked for many years within the National Health Service, which is a health system which is free at the point of delivery. And in the UK, that meant that everybody could access healthcare without having to pay. However, that means equality. Everyone has access. In reality, there are barriers to access for some people. So in Australia, everybody has access to healthcare, but in rural and remote areas, there is no healthcare. Or the healthcare, the nearest clinic, may be 100 kilometers away, and people can't get there. So the equality is everybody has access. Equity is giving them the means to deliver that access to them. So we give them extra resources. So different people need different resources. The same with access to education. So we can say free education in those countries that do that. Everybody has the right to go to university if they pass the exams. So that's equality. But for many parts of the community, they just don't have the journey to get to that education because they're in areas where the schools are poor, where the teachers are disenfranchised, where there is a lack of motivation, where there aren't enough books, there aren't enough computers. So equity is about positive affirmation and giving people the resources they need to get to the point that the people who already have those resources have been enjoying for years. but there's more. So social justice is about removing the barriers completely. It's not about helping people get over them, it's about removing them. And that is therefore looking at why there are those barriers and improving the health of the community, the housing of the community, the nutrition of the community, so they're not disadvantaged from the moment they're born. And just there, if you can read that, this is from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which really brought out this idea of social justice. A fair distribution of resources. So when we talk about all, is a bit more complicated than we think. And I just want you to take a moment to read this. So again, I'm a white English woman with a burden of guilt for having colonized half the globe at one point. My forebears did that. I'm living in a country which is divided by race, where in January the 26th we celebrate Australia Day, which is the day that James Cook invaded Australia, whereas our indigenous compatriots, our Aboriginal peoples, call that day Invasion Day. So we are still struggling with the after effects of colonization. And there's a big move to decolonize curricula in the basis of equality, diversity, inclusivity. But sometimes it's just at face value. So it's really important we dig deep to see what colonization has actually done to the people we're working with, and to accept that, respect that, and try to improve. So I recommend this edition of the BMJ, which is looking at this problem. Now, as you heard, I'm a writer and an editor, and we have a lack of diversity in scholarly publishing. There is certainly a move at the moment to consider the editorial boards of all the different journals, and they are becoming more reflective of the people who are writing for them. However, it is still much harder to publish if you are not a native English speaker and if you come from the global south. And there's many reasons for that, which I'm not going to go into. But it's always interesting, isn't it? Many of us do systematic reviews, scoping reviews, etc. And we have, going back, inclusion, exclusion criteria. And the number one exclusion criteria is paper not in English. Surely we can do better than that. Surely we can harness technology to have a bilingual translation of a paper so that we don't have that exclusion. So again, I'm very privileged because English is my first language, and I don't have to consider this. And finally, on all is going to mean artificial technology, artificial intelligence, in healthcare and education. And so how do we include that in the best way that we can? It's going to be disruptive. We know in Japan that they are working on robotic technology because of the elderly population, the numbers there. There are not enough people to be carers. And so at some point, we are going to have to say, these robots are part of the healthcare team. How do we work with them? How do we collaborate with them? Okay, so next is together. And together is a process. It's how we work together. And this is a recent article about, many of you have written in this field and read in this field about socialization into your profession. And it was really coming from a space where we have to be realistic. Healthcare workplaces can be very difficult places in which to work. And people are mistreated. They are often very hierarchical. And within interprofessional education, we start our students off often in the classroom, and we have them mixing, and we have them breaking down those barriers, and we have them understanding each other's health professions. And then they go into the clinical workspace, and often, not always, but often what they see there is not what they've learned. They learn how to do their jobs. They learn a role clarification, which should include the roles of other people. And they acculturate to their organizational culture. If that organizational culture is not of the best, then we get into problems. If that organizational culture is not respecting everybody's health profession, we get into problems. And that, all of the work that we did in the first few years is removed because of the culture that they find themselves in. This bottom bit was taken from that as a quote, that it's very quick to become. So you cannot just change what you're teaching and learning. You have to go out into the field and change the field. And that's what we're not quite so well doing. And in terms of that as well, we need to consider, and I'm going to use patient, I'm a doctor, I use patient, but you know I include everyone else. We have to include the patient voice more than we do. Patients should be involved in development. They should be involved in delivery. They should be involved in assessment. They should be involved in decisions about their own care. They should be involved in how a hospital functions and who works in that hospital. We need to get the patients, and they're not the center of the team, they're part of the team. And I love this phrase, it is succinctly, nothing about me without me. Decisions should not be made about me unless I am included, except in those, when people are very traumatized, accidents, and you have to go in and save their lives, and then you can ask. But most of the time, nothing about me without me. And this is also related to shared decision-making in healthcare. We are still often very patriarchal. We tell our patients what to do. And our patients go away, and we're surprised when they don't do it. And they don't do it because they don't want to. They don't know why they should. If we have those decisions and those discussions and those options, then we can help our patients do what both of us think is best for them. And we move away from that awful language of saying the patient was not compliant. If the patient is not compliant, it's not the patient's fault, it's the communicator's fault, the professional's fault. Okay, better. Better implies change. To make something better, you're improving it. Change requires advocacy, which is one of the sub-themes of this conference. So health professionals should be advocates. But I also want to ask, can we actually always make things better? Sometimes that's not possible, and sometimes we spend a lot of energy trying to make things better when we'd be better moving on to something else. So better is great, but it's not always achievable. And I'm just going to think, if you just think for a moment, if you had a wish list of things that you would like to see to make your education better in your context, so we talk about education at the moment, not health, what would be on your wish list? You can just think about that. Okay, this is my wish list. I want to make things better. Okay, so to no surprises, IPE. I think, and this is maybe my bias as a family doctor, more of our education should take place in the community. More healthcare, more sickness, more disease is in the community than it is in the secondary and tertiary hospital centres where most students spend most of their time. We should be getting more students out into the community for longer periods of time. We should be really, really clear that healthcare is not just about healthcare. It's also about social determinants. It's about their environments, their housing, their education, the clean water, nutrition. We should also be including something about climate change. These generations are going to see an exceptionally different type of Earth in a few years. And healthcare is also about healthcare of the planet. So we need to be helping our students realize that. Think of all the waste there is in a hospital. Think of what we throw away, what we don't reuse. Think about the sorts of things that are going to impact on people when the climate becomes even more difficult. How are we getting our students ready to cope with that? Patient-centered, I've mentioned, and we should be talking to them about high-value care. It has become, and this is not in every country, but in some countries, people are over-investigated, over-treated, and over-medicated without any better results than those countries where that doesn't happen. So we need to be questioning all the time, is this good value care or is it low value care? And we need to be talking about that in curricula. But I receive lots of papers to me, having lots of discussions. People are always writing and saying, you need to have more of X in your curriculum, you need to have more of Y. And then you say, okay, if you want X and Y, what are you going to take out? So when you're thinking of all these things you're going to add, also remember that unless you want your health professional programs to go on for 10 years, you have to take something out. And it's really hard to do that. And finally, health. And this is the 1948 WHO definition of health. And I read that and I go, well, I'm not healthy. I've got arthritis. I don't fit in this definition. I've not got a complete absence of disease. I wonder how many people here actually would say they were healthy in this definition. It's an aspirational definition. So lots and lots of people now talking about how would we better define health. And the one I like here is not talking about perfect health, but talking about sufficient health. Sufficient health to do your daily work, your activities of daily life. Because nobody is perfect health, except perhaps when you've just been born. So I think that's, when we talk about health, we really need to be clear what we mean. And the other side of this within the healthcare sphere at the moment is the health of our practitioners. And we know that our health professionals have been under increasing strain, particularly with COVID, particularly with the complexities of medical care at the moment. And what we do, people start to struggle, and they start to find it difficult to work 40 to 80 hours a week, and they hold up their hands and they say, I'm struggling. And someone then says to them, well, that's because you're not resilient. Go on this course. Here's a one-day course on how to be resilient. Go on this course, learn to be resilient, and then come back and we'll get on with things. Just like this. Be honest, understanding the specific areas in which you lack resilience will enable you to get the most out of our 10-point booster plan. So we'll all go off and get our 10-point booster plan, and things will be lovely. But the problem is not the individual, the problem is the system. And here's a couple of definitions of systems as related to resilience, which I'll just let you look at. We cannot expect to improve the health and well-being of our health professionals unless we look at the culture and the system in which they work. And we should definitely never blame them for their lack of resilience. I'd just like to refer to this, if those of you interested in this topic. This is a report that Interprofessional Research.global published recently, which talks about healthcare resilience in systems. And here are some ideas of what, not so much better health, but what realistic health is all about. So if you haven't got the money, when money's tight, when countries are struggling, these are the sorts of things that will bring down costs. And particularly number 6, which is about team-based primary care. We know that countries with a strong primary care tend to reduce costs, and that's all about moving more of the provision of healthcare out of the hospitals into the community. So I just leave that up for you to look at for a moment, and thinking of that high care. And I know I'm running out of time, but I started late. So just bear with me. Okay, so we have to bring ChatGPT into the conversation. And I actually think this is really good. I said to ChatGPT, "Dear ChatGPT, what is altogether better health?" And ChatGPT, and I don't know ChatGPT's pronoun, so I'll refer to him as it. It replied, and I think that's actually quite good. So it has the coordination, etc., collaboration, integration, all the nice terms. So I thought, yeah, ChatGPT, I must come and see you more often. Right, I'm going to just finish quickly with Altogether Better Health conference. How do we know what the impact of a conference is? What is the impact of Altogether Better Health conference going to be? What has Allah got in store for us for the evaluation? How do you go back to your institution and they say, okay, what was my return on investment for sending you all that way over to Qatar? What are you going to do for me now? And I don't think we'll ever get to this. This was very interesting. The first scientific conference took place in 1860 in Germany. And its main outcome, people got together to work out the periodic table in its logical form. And that's the one we use now with a few additional elements. Right, so I don't think we're aiming for the periodic table in this conference, but it's worth thinking about how do we know we've had a good conference? This is a quote from a delegate at the New Zealand conference, and I think this is a really nice summing up of somebody's personal outcome and impact. All right, and we've all got those stories. I went to that conference, and it really motivated me to stay in this field, or I learnt more about this field. We could evaluate it through the well-known Kirkpatrick framework, if we wanted to, as applied to conferences. Many of you will know this. Can we actually look at a conference and say it's improved health and well-being of our patients? And yes, that really it should be doing, shouldn't it? But that will it's very long-term evaluation. So some of the things which are slightly more humorous, I think. Conference impact factor, the number of papers that come out of this conference. Okay, people finding new jobs because they're talking to people, they hand over their CV, someone comes to see their presentation, and in a few weeks they've got a new job. That's quite a good outcome. CPD points. Most people say the value of conferences is the networking, which I think is true of many. And then there's the negative sides. There's the anxiety side. There's the anxiety about having to speak. There's the anxiety, the fear of missing out because of all the parallel presentations. If I go to that one, I'm missing that one. What am I missing over here? I think for a number of people, it enhances their imposter syndrome. So they look at people and say, I could never do that. Just how do they do it, you know? Find someone and ask them. And then, of course, there's the whole thing about social media presence. You can rate that conference by the buzz of the social media, and possibly one of your personal outcomes is by increasing your followers. So, key points, you can read those. You may have very different key points from what I've said. Those are my key points. And thank you. Can we have, you want any questions? Do you want questions or not? Are we too late? Oh, it's a friend, that's okay.
Hi, hello. There we go. Hi, good morning. Tim from University of Derby, UK. I just wondered, in terms of the language around inclusion, can I stand up?
I can't see you.
Sorry.
So, all right, I see you now. Yeah.
Hiya, Tim from Derby. With regards to the language around inclusion, just an observation really, as somebody who's not a health practitioner, but involved in the training of social workers, professional youth workers, youth justice practitioners, and so on, I just wonder if there's a better way to talk about the work that we're doing rather than just always talk about health, hospitals, patients, and so on.
Yeah.
And whether maybe this is one thing we could take away for Qatar is maybe to talk about altogether better health and social care, which is a much broader term. I just wondered if you had any observations on that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and we often use health and social care. The definition of health kind of assumes the social well-being as part of that. But in this field, we often sometimes get bogged down with that because we still haven't agreed on the term whether as a group we use patient, consumer, service user, or client. So, absolutely. But I think most of the time we're doing our best and we're not trying to exclude anybody. But you're right, language to other people doesn't show that. But health and social care, I think it's unfortunate that in many universities, health and social care are in two completely different faculties, which reduces the interactions between them. Tony?
I will give a testimony because I was one of the Twitterers from Oxford that you featured on your presentation. And if you look at the group of people that were there, I'm still doing work with them. I'm still interacting with them. I've done research projects. I've advised master's students. So a lot of those measurables that you gave at the end, those are all possible here. I think it's a matter of reaching out, engaging. I don't think there's anyone in this room that hasn't been you once. So reach out to us and work with us. But thank you, Jill, very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be asked more and more in the future about why people go to conferences. And there was a picture in the corner that I didn't mention, but our carbon footprints. So that, that's going to be, your institutions are going to ask you more and more, why should I send you over there? So we need to have some good answers to that.
Yeah. Myself, Dr. Imran. I'm from Enterprise Dental College. Here, ma'am. I just wanted to know, because you brought the ChatGPT up, and I'm integrating Smilo. It's an app for diagnosis of oral health.
Mhm.
What do you feel the future of artificial intelligence in promoting interprofessional education?
I'm very positive about artificial intelligence. I think we can use it very well, but like all technologies, it has harm and good. And this is the time when we should be working on thinking what we're going to use it for, the constraints, the limitations, so that we actually use it well, but not at the expense of the human relations. So the NHS is just starting to spend a lot of money on new technology before they even ensure that all their staff have access to a coffee machine and somewhere to sit down during the day. But we'll go and do all this technology. So, but I think it's quite exciting. I'm a great sci-fi reader. And you know, if you read some of the sci-fi that is more utopian, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But it's not the answer to everything. And the only thing is, the thing that put me off this week was the fact that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the UK, and Elon Musk were having a conversation. And that really disturbed me.
Mohammed Anami from Saudi Arabia. Thanks, Jill, for this elaborative explanation of the deconstructive theory of Derrida. Would you kindly elaborate more on this concept, deconstruction? Because I've read your article with the teamwork, and really I read it 10 times and still I'm not deconnecting some of the verbs and the meanings. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we have to go to tea. It's a very interesting concept, which when I first read it really resonated with me. It's quite fallen out of favor, but it's just to me, it's actually looking at words and not assuming they mean what we think they mean, and how other people can see things when we use the same word. And one of these very specific things about binaries, so right and wrong. So there's not many things that are wholly right, and there's not many things that are wholly wrong. Most things are on a continuum. So there's not people who are healthy and unhealthy. They're somewhere in between. So I think it's looking at that and not thinking in binaries a lot, but just considering our words and what they mean to the person who's listening, and actually having a dialogue to try and come to a common ground. But if you want to read Derrida, it's hard work. Derrida for Dummies is probably the place to start. Okay, I know there's one person at the back, but do you want two people? I don't know. The chair has to decide, not me.
Thank you, Jill. I'm Nina Lakhani. I'm from Leicester. As an advocate of sort of languages and cultures and diversity, we live in a very diverse city. I've worked in Leicester for a long time. And I think the gentleman before me asked about, and you also mentioned, translation of papers. Can I beg to say interpretation rather than translation? Because some things translated lose the meaning. So when we used to work on the wards in Leicester, me as a pharmacist, I was often asked to come and explain to patients what the doctors or the healthcare staff needed to do. And if I translated, it took on the wrong meaning. Interpretation would be something that I would very much advocate.
Yeah, I agree, though sometimes, I've been in that situation with interpreters in healthcare, and the interpreters actually interpret away from the meaning. And so we have to be very careful, that every time I write something and then someone reads it, and then someone cites it, and then someone else cites it, and someone else cites it, and then I find it down the road here. It's not what I said. So, you know, interpretation, things change, things move, things evolve, but we have to be very careful of that and really kind of sometimes go back to, well, what did the writer mean? And it's not always clear, particularly if if they're no longer with us. So both sides I can see. Yeah, I think that's it. Ooh, lots of people.
Okay, salam alaikum. Okay. Thank you very much.
You can catch me later if you want.
Okay. Okay, I'm Samaddin Abdelbagi. I am a family physician and I am a trainer. Looking to your last slide about the key concepts, all consider who, what is being excluded and why. From the culture of this conference, it seems that we have been concentrating, we here, all of those who are here, have been concentrated on IPE in a university culture. What about CPD? Would you please, continuous professional development, I mean, for those who are already practicing for 20 and 30 years, okay. Would you please reflect on what is happening worldwide in this area? I mean, IPE for old practitioners, those who studied in professional education for years and years, and now we want to swift them or to change them to go to interprofessional education.
Yeah.
After practicing and studying for 30, 40 years. Thank you.
Well, I didn't hear all the question, but it's about CPD and IPE. So, yeah, I mean, IPE is a continuum, you know, and all these questions we ask about when we should start at the beginning and go on till the end. That's my mantra. So we're beginning to talk about continuing into professional development, CIPD. I do think it's, I've been in situations, I once remember going back to the UK when I'd been away for a while in Australia. I went back to the UK, and I'd worked in a very interprofessional general practice where we all did our education together in practice. And then the funding for that kind of model went. And when I went back to the UK, I was told, oh, there's this big CPD exercise going on across the region for people from general practice. So we all turn up, and there was a sign going, nurses this way, GPs this way, pharmacists this way. And I just thought, we should be learning together all the time. We should, that's and it's never too late to start. I don't know if that answered your question because I couldn't hear all of it, but if you want to catch me later.
Please give another round of applause for an outstanding presentation. Now, we'd like her to choose one of those cards as a pearl of wisdom and tell us what's in it.
Is that $1 million?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Oh, this is we truly appreciate the time you took for being with us. It's very nice. Can I keep this?
Thank you very much. Outstanding job.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure there's a photograph somewhere. Can I just put my bottle of water down?
Thank you very much for your patience and sorry for the delay. Hope you enjoy your break.